time for my UFN 125 now, just 25 predictions. Thoughts on this card. Firstly, to say that I'm now being hosted on Facebook by the Phantom Knee. So if you're watching from there, hello. If you're not, then you ought to be. The other thing to say about this card is that there are a lot of former toughers on it, and a lot of people from Rufus Sport and sort of Sucker Punch affiliates. We have them every so often, cards where they seem to be grouped together. I'm going to start by talking about the main event and get that out of the way. This is Jake Sheilds versus Jake Ellenberger. Their records are very, very close, 26-5 for Sheilds and 24-5 for Ellenberger. They're also not too, I mean, traditionally it looks like this could be stand-up versus ground. Jake Ellenberger likes to win by TKO and he's got 15 of them. Jake Sheilds likes to win by submission and he's got 10 of them. And of course anybody could win by decision. The problem with this is that I want Jake Ellenberger to win, but don't really think he will. The reason is that whilst I think Jake Sheilds has a bit of a dodgy record in terms of getting a bit lucky, I think, with some of his wins, he has faced higher calibers. He's constantly faced the sort of caliber that Jake Ellenberger loses to, for example, Carlos Condit. So I'm going to say I think Jake Sheilds will win. I will go for decision, but I would like for nothing better to be proved wrong on that. Now I'm going to start at the bottom of the card and work up. Justin Edwards and George Lopez. Justin Edwards is 6-1. Likes to win by submission, and he's sort of sponsored by George Gurgle. George Lopez, it depends which George Lopez it is. Sherdog have 3 of them. The first one has a record of 0-0. Why would you make a profile for a person who has never competed in any fights? I don't know. The other person was pretty much equal on record. This George Lopez, which I thought is probably the one, has a record of 11-1, and he's an associate of Wanderlei Silva. So I think that he should probably win that one. I shall go for TKO in the first. Mike Lullo and Robert Peralta. Mike Lullo, 8-3, likes to win by submission. He, however, is coming off a loss in his debut, and he is fighting someone with a 7-fight win streak, although it's not really got many calibers in it. And that's Robert Peralta. I think Robert will win this one. I'm going to go for TKO in the second. Daniel Roberts is fighting Anthony Wildberger. Now, Daniel Roberts is coming off 2 fights in a row, but that is not too bad news here because he only tends because his opponent, tends to lose to calibers. And Daniel Roberts, whilst not a huge caliber, is probably equal to, if not better, than Anthony Wildberger. So I will go for Daniel Roberts, hoping that he's spared the cut that comes with 3 if he's not careful. I'm going to go for TKO in the third this time. Clay Harbison and Seth Baksinski. Clay you will know as a tougher. He's on a 3-fight win streak, but he's heavily outmatched in record, 13-6 by Seth. This is, however, Seth's debut. You might remember him from the IFL. I think I am going to go out on a bit of a limb and say I think Clay Harbison will win. I will go for submission in the third. Ken Stone and Donnie Walker. Ken Stone shouldn't have a problem here. Although his record is only 9-3 compared to 15-7, he hasn't been subbed, and submission is Donnie Walker's skill, really. Although he's also coming off 2 losses, those are both 2 extremely high caliber people in WEC. And Donnie Walker, well, he lost in his debut, didn't he? So I'm going to go for Ken Stone, which, by the way, is an American top team fighter. And I'm going to say decision. Matt Riddle and Lance Benoist, who I don't know. He has a perfect record of 5, and he likes to win by submission, specifically choke submissions. I would like to see nothing more than Matt Riddle humiliated in an RNC, which is what I'm going to go for in the first round here. Matt Riddle and I had correspondence at one point, and he is terribly, terribly rude and nasty, and I don't like him. So there we are. Evan Dunham and Shamar Bailey. Surprised that Evan Dunham, who although he's coming off 2 losses in a row, was picked as somebody who was going to go all the way to the top. His record's only 11-2, and Shamar Bailey, a former tougher, has a record of 12-3. There you are. Evan Dunham needs to get back to what he was doing earlier on in his career, where he was finishing people by submission. That stopped recently, and it's sort of reflected, I think. I don't know why. You tend to see that fighters go through periods of finishing by a certain manoeuvre or a certain way, and then it all changes. He is with Extreme Couture. I desperately don't want him to be cut. But I do like Shamar Bailey. I'm going to go for Evan Dunham on this, but that could be a mistake. I'm going to go for a bar submission in the third. Cody McKenzie is facing Wagner Rocha. Fancy being named after a pear, because roaches are types of pears. Anyway, Cody McKenzie, former tougher. He is coming off a choke loss. It wasn't a guillotine, you'll be glad to know, because that, of course, is really all he's famous for. A tougher who has managed to win by guillotine almost every single time. Wagner Rocha, he is fighting Cody McKenzie after coming off a loss to Donald Cerrone in his debut. That was a little bit harsh of the UFC to do that to somebody with a record of only 6-2, and considering that Rocha was not finished in his loss, he's actually this is actually not a bad fight for him. I don't know who's going to win this one, to be honest. I will go for Cody McKenzie via guillotine because it's just too easy to miss. But I might go for it in the third round. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wagner Rocha actually won that one. Ellenberger and Jason McDonald. The problem with Jason McDonald, despite his large record and his thousands of wins by submission, is that he is very hit and miss in terms of the person that he'll face and whether he'll win or not. Ellenberger, you know, this is the first time he has fought this year, and he only fought once last year, but he's won both matches, if I remember rightly. I'm going to go for him. He is a Rufus Sport member. I'm going to go for him. I shall go for a bar submission in the second there. Jonathan Brookins and Eric Koch will be fight of the night, but it is also a nightmare for me because I kind of like them both. They have very similar records, 12-3 for Jonathan, 12-1 for Eric. Brookins, of course, was the tougher. He is on a 4-fight win streak, but his only real experience of hardcore fighting with a caliber is the fact that he fought Josie Aldo and lost. Eric Koch, on the other hand, has just beaten Rafael Asuncio, and he's a Rufus Sport fighter. He's a sucker punch fighter. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's never been finished. You know, I do think that Eric Cott will probably win this one. I'll go for TKO in the second there. And Court McGee versus Dongyi Yang. Dongyi Yang is from Korean top team, did you know? He's never been submitted, despite the fact that Court McGee is a tougher and he specialises in submission. I'm still going to go for Court McGee winning here with a triangle in the third. It would be nice to see somebody who looks so weird, so strange, winning. So those are my predictions for UFN 25.